In theaters now is Tom Cruise's return to the world of jet set Navy fighter pilots. This is the sequel to 1987's Top Gun. Maybe it was 86. This is the sequel to the 80s film Top Gun, entitled Top Gun Maverick. And boy, is this lacking in advertising. I went to the theater a few weeks back, and the soda machine where you can pick and mix and match the flavors had a Top Gun flavor. So and then the cup I got, a Top Gun cup, and it's everywhere. But so I was never a fan of Top Gun. I saw Top Gun when it first hit VHS way back in the day, and that might have been the problem. It might have been that it was a pan and scan thing, and I know Tony Scott movies never fared well on 4:3 cropped pen and scan, because they always looked like somebody was just shoving somebody's face through the lens of a camera, with all of his close-ups and his smeary orange haze across the top of the screen if somebody was outside, and every room with Venetian blinds in a smoke-filled room. Never really fared well on the old days of tape and 4:3 TVs. So I was not particularly excited to go see Top Gun Maverick, but I think Tom Cruise makes good movies. I think after a certain point in his career, for me, he's just been very dependable, is that if you go to see a Tom Cruise movie, it will be well made and it will be entertaining. In mainstream Hollywood blockbuster entertaining. So I had that much faith going into this. From the trailers, it looked like it was going to be sort of maybe a clone of the original. Honestly, I've not seen the original since, again, 86 or 87, whenever it came out, so I don't remember it that clearly. I remember what anybody would remember from an old trailer or music video from back then, of which, from Top Gun, there were several. So basically the story here for Top Gun Maverick is that Tom Cruise returns as Maverick, looking more or less like he did in the original film, behaving like he did in the original film, wearing the same clothes, driving the same motorcycle. You kind of get it. And he is still the cocky, confident Navy fighter pilot that he has always been since the original film. And he is called into service by his superiors to basically be a teacher at the flight school, at the Top Gun flight school that he was at in the original film, or the training academy, whatever you want to call it, by Iceman, portrayed by returning Val Kilmer in this film. He is now a high admiral, I believe the deal is, and he asks his old pal Maverick to come and train a new band of recruits that are full of Tinkle and Vinegar, to go on a very important, secret, high-stakes mission. So you get, again, to my memory, a number of nods to the original film, which is the kind of thing that usually actually kind of bugs me. Like, we see him racing his motorcycle, trying to race a jet with his motorcycle, and there are certain moments. There's a scene in the bar with all the recruits, and they gather around, they sing an old song. A bar that, by the way, not that I'm complaining, seemed a little weird to me that this bar full of 20-something people in the military is all playing like 70s, 80s classic rock. Again, not that I have a beef with that. If they played what those people probably actually listen to right now, I would have had not as much fun time in the theater. And they played T-Rex, which, movie earns points if they put T-Rex in it at this point for me. So there are certain scenes that are very similar, and there's a certain scene at the end that's a clone of a scene from the end of the original, and some of the relationships parallel. But all that aside, I thought this movie was a lot of fun. Again, somebody who is really not a particular fan of Top Gun, Tom Cruise is very charming in this. You get Jennifer Connelly as the love interest in this. Some familiar faces, but not too many. John Hamm as the, I'm this close to throwing you off the force kind of guy, who's a superior to Tom Cruise. For me, where this film excels is the music, the soundtrack, which is mostly, I must say, not new songs. The original Top Gun was filled with songs. That was one of those iconic 80s hit soundtracks. This movie doesn't really do that. It actually opens with Danger Zone over a montage of fighter pilots and aircraft carrier footage. And some of the Harold Faltermeyer score from the original is reused again and again. And then there's a lot of classic rock, and then there's a new song by Lady Gaga at the end. And there might be another new song somewhere in there. But it isn't like... Times have shifted where in the 80s and into the 90s, the hit soundtrack album was a big thing. And you would get music videos that were from the movie that served to promote the movie and all kinds of stuff like that. That seems to, unless it's a Disney movie or a flat-out musical, you don't really get that so much anymore. So this movie really feels like an 80s film. for better or worse. I'm not, I mean, it's an era that I lived through. I have a little fondness for, but I don't need to keep trying to recreate personally. But if you're into that, this feels like an 80s movie. And I got to say, for me, the thing that really, really impressed me was the aerial fighter jet action. It's filmed in such a way that you can understand who's who and where everybody is in relation to everybody else. And when they're doing something dangerous, it sure feels like it. And the film culminates in the mission that they go on, that they're all training for and angling for a position to be a part of. And it's really exciting. It's really well executed. And this is a Hollywood movie, but it really felt like you didn't know who was going to make it out of this. And then there's a little bit of a twist that even makes the stakes more insane and intense, and it's so well done. So for me, everything that led up to that was interesting and entertaining and funny. But some of the stuff toward the end, I mean, there were people applauding in the theater, which you don't get that much anymore. And it made it, I wish more people were, actually. I saw this as it wasn't the first screening of this movie, but it was still advanced. They do this thing now where it's like, the old days, an opening weekend for a movie was Friday, Saturday, Sunday. How much money did it make? That's great or that's not great. And then they started adding a Thursday. They started doing Wednesdays. Now they do Tuesdays, so it's like like a 5-day weekend. So we can say, oh, over the course of opening weekend, we made this much. Where they're damn near close to having a full week, where that's how much money they made. Anyway, I quite enjoyed Top Gun Maverick. This is filmed for IMAX. I did not see it in IMAX. I saw it in a regular widescreen format, and the compositions looked perfect to me. I think with IMAX, it's basically just going to open up the top and the bottom of the frame a little bit. But if you can see it in IMAX, it's probably going to be a little bit more impressive that way, or somewhere with really good sound. It wasn't. To me, when I go back to IMAX, I think about the original IMAX movies that were almost like Cinerama movies, where they were like travelogues, and it was long, sustained shots where you really could take in the visual majesty or beauty or what was to be impressive about what you were looking at. And they started putting narrative films on the IMAX screen just as a way to make another buck, really. Eventually, they started shooting movies for IMAX, which is cool, but not a lot of them really gain a whole lot because there's, like I say about 3D, they're still edited quickly, and you don't really have time to take in what you're trying to be impressed by with most modern narrative films because the pace is just so fast. Had I been able to see Top Gun Maverick in IMAX, I would have done it that way. And I'm hearing across the board this movie is selling out. People are like cheering at the end. This is really a well-received 30 or so years later sequel, which is very, very rare. I always say decades later sequels almost never work and almost never have a point. Is this movie necessary? No. It's an excuse for Tom Cruise and a lot of people who love the original movie to get the band back together again to some degree and do it again. Not every character is back. Not every actor is back. I don't want to say, should you not have seen Top Gun and you're going to watch it before this one, I won't say who's back and who isn't and why, but the film really kind of revolves around a relationship from the original film and the Maverick character trying to sort of come to terms with something that happened in the original film and right a perceived wrong. And that works pretty well too. So I liked it. Honestly, this is not something I would usually say. I would be up for another one if there was just another mission where Tom Cruise and the jet set youth had to go in and take care of some business. I think I would probably pay to see that too. So in theaters now, see it in a theater, see it big, see it loud, is Top Gun Maverick.